Malicious compliance standoff. About 15 years ago I used to work in the highly regulated area of inbound mortgage sales in the UK. Our calls were monitored for compliance and multiple failed calls led to action plans being put in place to get you back on track. Well, I had a terrible start to the year and failed 3 calls in a row. The usual follow-up and support didn't happen and I turned things around and passed the next 4 months of calls with no action plan needed. In month 4 I get called into a meeting to discuss my need for an action plan. I was confused as it had been so long since I had failed a call. I was referred back to the call from the start of the year. I mentioned that I felt that the action plan was unwarranted as I had turned this around myself even without the support, and putting me on an action plan now was definitely closing the stable door after the horse had bolted. I was told that this was non-negotiable. Okay, fair enough. The action plan is drawn up and there is a section for my comments. I state the dates of my failed calls, the record since the last failed calls, and my disappointment that the support was not offered at the time of need. I was told I wasn't allowed to record this on the performance plan. What they didn't realize at the time is how petty I am, so I researched the HR handbook, printed out the section stating implicitly I was allowed to put any info I wanted recognizing this in this section. I updated the performance plan to state I had been told I couldn't record my objections, the manager who told me that, and added the HR handbook section for good measure. Well, it turns out we were due for an inspection and not intervening when there is a record of failed calls was a big issue. My diverting the lack of support back to management would not look good. They would not sign off my plan as it stood and I would not back down either. The result was I was not allowed to do my job. I was already job searching elsewhere, but I managed to spend 3 months being paid to job search and be available for ag-gov tasks. This mostly ended up with me playing Mario Kart in the break room until busy work could be found elsewhere. When I eventually gave my notice, I was immediately put on a month's paid leave to get me out as soon as they could.